So, how religiously diverse do you think California is on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being the lowest diversity, 10 being like the highest possible.
10. I'd probably say about an 8.
I would say California is probably about an 8 on diversity.
I'd probably say like an 8 or a 9 for sure.
When I found out that California was one of the most religiously diverse places on the planet, I didn't believe it. I thought it must be an exaggeration because how could a place I've lived my entire life be so different than what I've experienced? I'm a Christian who grew up in a Christian home, going to a Christian school, having Christian friends, and going to church every Sunday. Almost every single person that I interacted with on a day-to-day basis was the same religion as me. Basically, I've been living in a religious bubble. So to me, California didn't seem to have much religious diversity at all. But then I realized that everyone has different experiences, and I'm only one opinion and one experience. What if, even within my bubble, I can find people with unique experiences with religious diversity that I can learn from? After all, if California has so much religious pluralism, then the people in my life must have experienced that diversity somehow. So, I set up interviews with people close to me in the hopes that I would find that maybe I don't have to go very far at all to experience religious diversity in some form. Maybe I'll realize it was right in front of me the entire time. While living in California, what is the most unique religion, or I guess diverse to you, religion that you've come across and had an experience with?
I work in like healthcare and I work in education, so I kind of meet all different people from all different walks of life. So I've seen, I've interacted with a lot of people from more like Eastern religions, more like traditional like Judeo-Christian, even some kind of like off branches of Christianity.
Actually, just this year, there was someone at San Diego State who said, he said he was deciding between Buddhism and Christianity. So I thought it was pretty interesting that he would have like he has a very fluid idea of religion.
It would probably be like the Church of Scientology, because I think that's like very centralized here.
I would say it would probably be Islam.
I've encountered like more Native American religions, which are like definitely like a lost thing in our current day, more so.
What has been one of your best experiences with somebody of another religion, whether it's like a conversation or just like talking about it or something else?
So I've had like a boss who was Baptist, and so we kind of like, and she'd always pray over her meal. And so that was kind of like a thing that we'd talk about. And then I had another boss who was Hindu. And so we talked about, she's vegetarian, and I'm vegetarian, so we talk about that and kind of like how that was. And so those were always really open and like comfortable conversations, I guess I'd say. No one's trying to convert someone else. You're just kind of having an open, honest conversation, getting to know each other.
One of my neighbors living in the Bay Area was actually like an Ethiopian Muslim. And so I thought it was really interesting because they were a devout Muslim. They went to church at a Muslim church down the street from me. And it was really interesting just to hear about like their thoughts on what humanity should look like, what the afterlife should look like, or in their opinion, what it does look like. And I liked the fact that we both kind of came with different preconceived notions. I'm a Christian, and we found that we actually had a lot more similarities as far as like core values of how we want to live our day-to-day life.
I guess I would say, considering that like Protestant Christian and Catholic Christians, counting them as different religions, then I would say talking to my friend who's Catholic would be my most successful interaction with someone who's of a different religion, because we've had a lot of really good conversations about the differences between our beliefs and like why we believe what we believe. And it's always been like positive conversation.
Everyone that I talked to had different experiences with different religions, so clearly California is diverse. But I could just look that up online. So then I asked everybody whether they thought California had religious harmony, not just religious diversity. And everybody pretty much agreed that California is, on average, religiously harmonious. But they said some of the more rural parts of California and the U.S. as a whole definitely doesn't have religious harmony. So I asked them what the problem is and maybe a couple solutions to fix it.
So I think, and I think as a country, we like, we're become so like politically correct that we're not politically correct, because we're like, well, we don't talk, we don't know religion in schools. But if we were to teach it in a way that like everyone gets a little piece, then you would be less like, oh, that's weird, or I don't know about that. You'd be like, oh, this holiday makes sense, or oh, this is normal,
So I think it's until we open our eyes to see the beauty and diversity. And again, what I mentioned, seeking to understand the other person, I don't think we're going to be able to achieve that. And that's not even just in religion, that's in politics and, anywhere where we see different life differences.
I think that we judge what we don't understand. So I think that it's hard not to move past the things you may hear at home about a certain group of people or a certain religion. But I think that if we did a better job of teaching very basic things about every religion in school, at least in public schools, I think that would be a way to kind of teach young minds that people may think differently, and just a basic level of acceptance just through understanding exactly what other people believe.
People, especially in America, we're very individualistic, and our ideas are right and we have the right to believe what we want, which is true, but we kind of hold on to that idea so firmly that we aren't willing to hear other people's ideas, or we kind of accidentally shut them down with, even if we're oh yeah, we don't care, you can believe what you want. But then when it comes down to it, you kind of naturally just go with what you believe and not really listen to other people's ideas. So I guess the solution would be just being more aware of that in your conversations and thinking about what you're saying and how you're treating other people.
Most places in the US and the world are not religiously harmonious, whether it's because of lack of exposure or something else entirely. If we look at social media or the news, we see countless people who are discriminated against, feared, and treated unfairly simply because not enough people have made the conscious effort to stop it. If I'm being honest, my entire life I've been one of those people not making the effort. It's easy for people living in California to be in our own bubble, accidentally ignoring religious discrimination since we don't directly see it all the time here. But there's still work to be done, in California and beyond. This video made me realize that I used to be afraid to talk with people about religion. Even interviewing the people close to me made me a bit wary. But that just made me a contributor to the stigma that religion doesn't need to be talked about. So I'm not going to shy away from conversations anymore. I'm not going to try and prove I'm right. I'm not going to ignore people who need a listening ear or a helping hand. I'll listen, I'll learn, and if I can, I'm going to try and share what I learned with others. I don't expect to change the world, but if I can make at least one person feel a little more safe, confident, and at home when it comes to religion, I think that's a huge step towards religious harmony.